What we're picking up is there's a crunch meeting ongoing to try and sort out this issue. Meanwhile, the police is unhappy about this gathering, describing it as unlawful. Now, let's go to the Ashanti region and talk about cocoa now. Some farmers in the Ashanti region have begun cutting down their diseased trees for lack of chemicals to spray their farms. The development comes in the wake of widespread reports of diversion and stealing of chemicals meant for mass cocoa spraying. A 500-member Joint Cocoa Farmers Association in the Hafwano South and Itrima in Wabieja South districts are warning of massive destruction if government does not act timely to save the industry. The farmers' concern confirms an investigative report by Lava Firm on how even security personnel aid illegal sale of cocoa inputs.
These deprived farmers, angry and frustrated, have journeyed several miles from villages in and around Ekwapim and the Janso communities. Upon hearing media personnel were on a visit to speak with them, they showed us cocoa trees, blackened and prematurely ripened pods due to pest invasion. Some of them have been cutting down affected trees to stop the spread of the disease. They say chemicals meant for the free mass cocoa spraying program do not reach them or reach them in limited quantities with no spraying machines to apply them.
We want to express our gratitude to the President. He has done a lot for farming, including increasing cocoa prices. However, only few of the chemical for spraying cocoa gets to us here. We are about 500 cocoa farmers in this community. All the time, we have 6 farmers sharing a small bottle. This is really affecting farming in the community.
A recent investigative report by Lava Firm highlighted connivance of security personnel with alleged criminals to steal these chemicals. Nothing appears to have been done following the revelation, and the farmers are calling for immediate action from the President.
We are pleading with the government to do all it can to help us. This is because if the cocoa is not sprayed, it will lead to low yield or it may even die. When this happens, the country loses a lot. We therefore plead with the government to come to our aid.
Now, 3 more people have been confirmed dead after a 3-story building collapsed at cantonments in Accra. This increases the death toll, well, obviously to 3. 19 survivors were rescued from the rubble. Lord Eduasari has more.
The rescue operation was carried out by military personnel, officials of the National Disaster Management Organization, as well as the Ghana National Fire Service. 4 excavators were used in the 48-hour-long exercise. Acting National Coordinator for NADMO, Brigadier General Francis Vibzanziri disclosed that 12 of the survivors have been treated and discharged.
Out of the 20, 12 have been treated and discharged. 7 are still on admission, 3 in police hospital, 4 at the military hospital.
Some workers who were at the site indicated that they suspected the collapse to be as a result of cracks they discovered in one of the pillars in the building. However, Brigadier General Francis Vibzanziri says the investigations are underway.
Now, as investigations continue to establish the cause of the collapsed structure, we want to do a quick quality control check on raising up structures of such nature. So who really ensures that the necessary checks on this sort of building materials being used are carried out for for construction? Now let's get an expert's perspective on the subject with the hope to get some education and avert future recurrence. And I'm joined in the studio by engineer Nana Sapon Ajiman, and Ajiman Bedu would discuss the subject over the next few minutes. Thanks for being here, Ajiman. But
thank you.
Really, when you hearing the story, for you, what interpretation did you make into this?
Okay, good morning to your viewers. It's rather unfortunate what happened, which resulted in a loss of lives, but it feeds into the first assumption that many people in Ghana do not consult professionals within their construction. That was the first thought I had, looking at the interviews that you granted one of the workers saying that, I mean, the owner casted one floor of his building just last week, and a week later he decided to move on to the next floor. Professionally, that is not done unless...
What is that casting period?
Usually for normal concrete, it takes about 28 days for it to achieve its maximum strength. 28 days, that's 4 weeks.
Okay.
So if you're shortening that to 1 week, and even with that 28 days, there are processes that we take in making sure that the concrete doesn't lose a lot of water, other than that it may fail and develop cracks, you know. But listening to what happened, after 1 week of casting, he's moving on to the next level. You're actually adding more weight onto the structure, which has already not achieved its full strength. And for me, I believe a preliminary thought would be that that could be the possible cause. The concrete had not cured fully.
Indeed. Now, for one of the workers, again, I'm going to go to the same soundbite who said, look, we're using inferior materials and all that. I don't see, well, it will take a really greedy investor to decide that I want to use inferior materials to put up a structure. But maybe the materials are on the market and you don't know it's inferior.
Yeah, it's true. For instance, if you take 12 millimeter iron rods, sometimes when you go on market, the people selling actually sell you 11 millimeters, which is below specification. When we are doing our designs, we design it according to 12 millimeters. So if you're going to buy and you do not ask them to check the diameter of your iron rods, you could be shortchanged. And in the long run, you come back and some years to come, you see your building will start tumbling down. And I see that a lot of buildings in Accra here, which, excuse me to say, they are like someone who has HIV. You know, they are all well cladded, well designed, very beautiful looking. But underneath all that, you can see that the materials, they are very, very poor, and they are just a time bomb waiting for one day to just crumble down.
What should we be doing?
We should, first of all, I would advise that we should seek the right professional guidance. We should seek the right professional guidance, because many people cut corners. They think hiring an engineer or a quantity surveyor or an architect is so expensive. So they decide to go in for a mason or a draftsman who acts as their own foreman as well. They are, every year, the KNUST and the polytechnics, they churn out engineers. The polytechnics have engineering technicians who fit very well as the site supervisors, who are between the engineer and the workers, you know. But we usually go in for a mason to be the site supervisor, which is not so good.
I would want us to talk about this professional guidance, because a lot of time when issues of this or situations like this occur, it's always about you haven't sought the help of a professional in doing this. So we'll discuss that further. But let's go to those buildings that you have observed could be on a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
So which buildings in the capital city have you observed as being
I wouldn't want
disaster in the waiting?
I wouldn't want to mention names, but I can mention some areas. There are some buildings in Adabraka. Some are very old. 3 years ago, someone contracted me to actually come and take a look. You know, my preliminary investigations, I mean, it was a 3 or 4 story building, and at the base of it, at the base column, the concrete was falling, exposing the iron rods. And you know, with the exposure, the iron rods begin to rust, and every time it weakens, then you start seeing the pillar buckling. And once it gives way.
So you would advise that we should start checking our old buildings?
We should start checking our old buildings.
Because it's not just at Abraka.
Yeah, there are a lot.
If you go to close to the coast, closer to the coast,
sea,
you have a lot of those old buildings there.
Yeah.
We should take a closer.
We should start taking a closer. And that building is a very big building, houses a lot of offices. A lot of people work in that building. And I mean, if it should fail one day, it will be very catastrophic.
But you know the belief is that these old buildings were really made with quality materials, and they can really stand the test of time like they have over the years.
Yeah, but the building has to be maintained. It should be checked constantly for defects, and they should be resolved. But some people, with what they do is when they see a crack in a building, they just patch it up.
Is that not what you're supposed to do?
Not necessarily, because there are some cracks which are actually structural cracks, and normal patching would not solve the problem. It's not like a crack through a wall.
So when I see a crack on my building, what do I do? I call the professional, I guess.
Yeah, you should call a professional, come and take a look to see what kind of crack it is, and conduct a structural integrity test on the building, because perhaps a crack could have been developed as a result of the foundation giving way. People building on clay soils, you know, when it rains, the clay expands, and then it begins to, the ground begins to move underneath. So when it settles, it pulls that part of the building down and develops a crack through a beam. And a crack through a beam is something that you shouldn't toy with. A crack through a column is something you shouldn't toy with. Neither should you toy with a crack through a slab. Maybe with walls, you can easily patch them. But when it goes through the main structural members, then you have cause to worry.
I see. Yeah. But here's my question. Where are the professionals? Because in my mind, if, you know, in the future, I'm able to, you know, gather some money and want to put up a structure, for instance, a residential property for myself, I don't know where the professionals are. Oh,
there are a lot. I mean, I'm a member of Ghana Institute of Engineers. If you go there and you want them to direct you to someone, they can easily direct you. There are over 1,000.
But I can bet my last cedi or peswa, it's not heavy, the dollar, I can bet my last dollar on the fact that many of our viewers watching us now do not know where the Institute of Engineers or surveyors, where you are, your contact numbers. So then again, the professionals are not making themselves available.
The professionals are always available. It's people think that our prices are too high, so they want to cut costs and rather go in for a draftsman to design like a 2-story, 3-story building. And for instance, let me just say, for buildings that usually go beyond a story or 2 stories, there's this element of wind that we take into consideration when we are designing, because though we may not be having strong gusts of wind in the city, but as the building goes higher, wind becomes a very serious factor. And many of these people do not take that into consideration. So the professionals are available, but it's because they think that our prices may be high, so they want to cut corners. But what I'll say is that it's better to save a lot of money. It's better to invest a lot in your building now than in the future have it collapsing, and then you have to be paying a lot of money to, you know, cater for all those who are affected. Yeah.
I realized that in the course of our conversation, one of the concerns you've raised is the time for what you call curing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the observation is also that a lot of these real estate developers seem to put up buildings really quick. Yeah. People move into the buildings, and before you know it, there are cracks. What's your take on that?
Yeah. You know, it's because they are in a hurry to actually, you know, some of them go for loans and all that. So they're in a hurry to put it up, to get in the tenants, to pay their rent, to be able to service the loan. So sometimes they overlook some of these things. But I also want to add that the metro, like for instance, the city engineers, by law, by the building regulations, are supposed to be checking buildings at every stage. If you start your foundation, when it's done, someone's supposed to come and certify the building. When you move to the first floor, someone's supposed to come and certify the building. Even before you move into the building after construction, you must be issued a certificate that the building is now safe to be occupied. It's not only when people bring their building designs to the offices that they certify that.
Do you think they do this?
For me, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening a lot. A lot of, I mean, the excuse will be that they are ill-equipped. So what I would suggest is, you know, there are many engineers which are trained every year. If they can subcontract to them to go around and do the checks for them, they'll just go there, take them through training, subcontract and let them go around. There are many engineering firms in there. They can subcontract and let them do all that work for them.
We'll leave it here. Yeah. Thank you very much, Engineer Ajiman. I've been speaking to Engineer Nana Sapon Ajiman Bedu on well, construction here in the country after the many stories of buildings collapsing in the capital city and beyond. Let's talk about another building that is near collapse in the Elembele district of the Western Region. I'm speaking about the Aluku Primary School. The situation is so bad, both teachers and pupils fear their lives are in danger.
A visit to the school revealed that the building served as a market, but the need to educate children in the poor farming communities led residents to convert it into a school. Several years on, the dream to educate children is gradually fading as school activities come to a standstill anytime it rains. The dire situation is compounded by the lack of tables and chairs, toilet facilities and teaching materials. The Aluku Primary School does not have enough teachers' quarters, with the existing one in the west of states. The lack of tables and chairs is visible here, as only 10 out of 40 pupils in Primary 2 have to use them, meaning 4 children will have to share a desk. Those who could not manage have to either sit or lie on the floor to take lessons. The results: tattered uniforms. Work on the new classroom block has stalled, prompting the assistant headmaster of the school, Abdullahi Mohammed, to call on the district assembly for immediate intervention.
Yeah, coming down to our location of our school, sometimes it's very marvelous. Yeah, you can see the structure here. It was 1980 something structure for our forefathers who came around here for powder, kawarin. They did all this thing for us. And from that time, we have no any structure to help. Whenever there is rain, you cannot stay in the class, as you can see it. So if this structure is able to complete within first term, sometimes it will be very nicely for us. Like coming to our education background, library, these things, you get them. And when there's a rain falling, you can stay inside, camping the children nicely for any damage to be out. But as at now, you can see around here, look at our quarters too. It is not, you see, you cannot even as a teacher, being as a training carriage, coming down here and staying for this structure. It's not good. So we are pleading the government to come up nicely and help us from first term going. We are pleading that first term we should be able to complete the structure so that you can go inside and educate the children so that they can achieve very good aim for future.
You're watching Joy News Desk. There's more to come here. Please stay.